For 5 years, Tuesday nights were sacred. My husband, Daniel, would kiss me on the forehead after work, pick up the neat stack of Tupperware containers filled with the meal I'd spent the afternoon preparing, herb-roasted chicken, beef stew, vegetable lasagna, and say, "Off to see the folks. You're an angel for this, Elise." He'd drive the 20 minutes to his childhood home in Maple Crest, the cozy split level where his elderly parents, Frank and Gloria, lived. He'd spend a few hours there, he said, fixing a leaky faucet, mowing the lawn, updating their computer, sharing the meal I'd made. He always returned smelling of his father's pipe smoke and his mother's lavender sachets, with a quiet, satisfied smile. They loved it. "Mom says your cooking is the only thing keeping her going." It was our routine, a testament to Daniel's devotion as a son and to my role as the supportive wife. I never questioned it. I was grateful for a husband with such a strong sense of family. My own parents were distant, both geographically and emotionally, so his family's closeness was something I cherished, even from the periphery. The idea for the surprise came to me on a rainy Tuesday in October. Daniel had seemed particularly stressed lately, short-tempered, distracted. I thought a gesture of extra love might lift his spirits. Instead of him ferrying my food, I would deliver it myself. I'd show up at the door with the still warm containers, see the delight on his parents' faces, and maybe finally feel fully integrated into the Tuesday night ritual. I'd get to see him in his element, the good son, and share in the appreciation. I didn't call. A surprise loses its sparkle with a warning. After he left that evening, I waited 15 minutes, then packed the food carrier, tonight it was my famous chicken pot pie, and drove toward Maple Crest. The neighborhood was quiet, streets gleaming under the recent rain. The Harrison house was at the end of a cul-de-sac, its front lawn meticulously maintained. As I turned onto their street, I saw Daniel's SUV parked in the driveway. Good, he was here. But something felt off immediately. The house was dark. Not a single light on in the living room or kitchen, which faced the front. Maybe they were in the den at the back. I parked a few houses down, not wanting the headlights to announce me. I'd walk up, ring the bell, and unveil my surprise. I grabbed the carrier and walked up the driveway. The silence was profound. No murmur of a television, no clatter of dishes, just the drip of water from the gutters. I was about to step onto the front porch when a flicker of movement through the large side living room window caught my eye. The curtains were open just a crack. I shifted my position, peering into the gap. The room was not dark. A soft, lamp-lit glow came from a corner, and in that pool of light, I saw them. It wasn't Frank and Gloria. It was Daniel, and a woman. They were on the sofa, but they weren't sitting. She was straddling his lap, her back to me, her blonde hair cascading down. His hands were gripping her waist, her arms wrapped around his neck. They were fused together in a deep, desperate kiss, the kind of kiss that spoke of familiarity, of hunger, of secret routine. The food carrier slipped from my numb fingers. It landed on the damp grass with a soft, dull thud, the lid popping open. The scent of thyme and pastry crust wafted up, a sickeningly domestic contrast to the scene in the window. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The world narrowed to that lit rectangle, to the silhouette of my husband's hands moving up the woman's back, to the intimate curve of her body against his. This was his Tuesday night ritual. This was the help he provided. This was why my cooking was keeping his mother going. The lies were so vast, so calculated, they formed a parallel universe right under my nose. Then the woman pulled back slightly, laughing at something he whispered. She turned her head to nuzzle his neck, and her profile came into view. The breath left my body in a violent rush. It was Chloe, my younger sister, the one who had just moved back to town 6 months ago after a bad breakup, the one Daniel had generously helped to find an apartment, the one who came over for Sunday dinners and hugged my husband a little too long, which I dismissed as her being emotionally needy. The pieces detonated in my mind, one after another. Her sudden return, his Tuesday absences that started up again right after she arrived, his stress lately, not work stress, but the stress of a double life tightening around him, the way he always returned smelling of lavender, Chloe's perfume. A low animal sound escaped my throat, a mix of agony and fury. I stumbled back from the window, my heel catching on the fallen food carrier. I righted myself, my hands trembling violently. I didn't storm in. I didn't scream. The shock was too total, too annihilating. I left the carrier in the grass, the pot pie spilling onto the ground like a gutted secret. I turned and walked back to my car on legs made of water. I got in. I drove 2 blocks before I had to pull over, my vision swimming with black spots. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel, the cold plastic a shock against my skin. 5 years of Tuesdays, 5 years of lovingly prepared meals, 5 years of believing in the good, devoted man. All of it a beautifully wrapped lie delivered weekly to the house of his parents, who were undoubtedly not even home, who were probably complicit in the cover, their weekly bridge game a perfect alibi. The man I loved and the sister I'd raised after our own mother died were in that house, and I was on the outside, in the dark, holding the empty container of a life that had never existed. I drove home on autopilot. The world outside the car windows was a smear of colors and lights, meaningless. My mind was a white noise machine, shielding me from the full impact of the wound. I walked into our house, my house, bought with my inheritance, a fact that now felt vitally important, and methodically began an audit of my own life. I went to Daniel's home office. The door was never locked. We had no secrets. We had no secrets. The bitter laugh that bubbled up tasted like bile. I sat at his computer. I knew his password, our wedding date. He was careless because he thought I was blind. His email was a treasure trove of banality, except for the drafts folder. Emails to Chloe, never sent, saved as drafts so they wouldn't appear in a sent folder, a shared email trick. Can't wait for Tuesday. The wait is killing me. I bought the wine you like. Bad seller. She's making pot pie tonight. Ironic, right? I took photos with my phone. I checked his phone bill online. The account was in my name. Multiple daily calls to a number labeled C Contractor in his contacts. I recognized the number. It was Chloe's. I went to our shared calendar. Every Tuesday, 7 to 10 p.m. Parents. I scrolled back. It went on for years. But in the notes section for recent Tuesdays, in tiny, almost invisible font, bridge night for them. Safe. My parents-in-law, they knew. They had to. Their bridge night was the weekly gift of their empty house to their son and his mistress, my sister. My hands shook so badly I dropped the mouse. The forensic accounting of my heart was complete. The evidence was irrefutable, and it painted a picture of a long-term, meticulously managed affair, facilitated by my own kindness and the collusion of his family. I didn't cry. The tears felt like a tribute to a marriage that deserved none. Instead, a cold, precise fury settled in my bones. They had stolen my trust, my time, my love. They would not steal my dignity or my future. Daniel came home at 10:15 p.m., right on schedule. He walked in, humming, smelling of lavender and guilt. "Hey, honey, Mom sent her love. The pot pie was a hit, as always." I was sitting in the living room, in the dark, a single lamp on beside me. I held my phone. "Elise, why are you sitting in the dark?" "How were Frank and Gloria?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Good, good. Dad's back is acting up, so I helped him with some stretches. Mom's bridge game ran late. He was already weaving the night's fictional tapestry. I went to Maple Crest tonight." He froze mid-step, his keys halfway to the hook. "What?" "I brought the pot pie, as a surprise." The color drained from his face. You did?" "I saw you, Daniel, through the window. I saw Chloe."
His mouth opened, but no sound came. The confident liar was gone, replaced by a trapped animal. "Elise, it's not what you think. We were just talking, comforting each other. She's been so sad." "Don't." The word was a whip crack. "Don't you dare insult me further. I saw you. I read the draft emails. I know about the bridge nights. I know it's been going on for at least 6 months, probably longer. You've been using my food, my love, to fuel your affair with my sister in your parents' house." He collapsed into the armchair opposite me, his head in his hands. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. It just happened. She was vulnerable. You were always so busy with your work." Another lie. My work was freelance. I made my own hours, specifically to be available for our life. This was deflection. This was the script of a coward. "Get out," I said. "What? Elise, please, we can talk about this." "Get out of my house, tonight, now. Take your things and go. You can stay with your parents, or with Chloe." "You can't throw me out. This is my home too." I stood up. "The deed is in my name. The down payment was from my mother. You are a guest who has violated the terms of hospitality. If you are not gone in 30 minutes, I will call the police and show them the photos of you and my sister. I will then forward all the evidence to every member of your family and to Chloe's friends. Leave the key." He stared at me, seeing a woman he didn't know. The supportive, accommodating Elise was gone. In her place was someone forged in betrayal, someone with nothing left to lose. He left. He packed a suitcase with shaking hands and left. The silence he left behind was different from the Tuesday night silences I'd once cherished. This silence was clean. It was mine.
The next morning, I changed the locks. I then did 2 things. First, I called my father-in-law, Frank. "Elise, to what do we owe?" "I know, Frank," I interrupted, my voice cold. "I know about the bridge nights. I know you and Gloria gave them your house. You were my family for 5 years, and you helped your son betray me with my own sister." A choked silence, then a weary sigh. No denial. "Daniel, he said it was just a fling. He said he'd end it. We didn't want to cause trouble." "You caused nothing but trouble. You are complicit. You will not hear from me again. Do not contact me." I hung up. Their guilt was their own to live with. Second, I drove to Chloe's apartment. She opened the door, her face pale, eyes puffy. She'd clearly heard from Daniel. "Elise, please, let me explain." I didn't step inside. I held up my phone, showing the clearest photo I'd taken from the window, their entangled silhouette. "You are dead to me," I said, each word a shard of ice. "You had a family, and you chose to break it. We share blood, but that is all. Never speak to me again. If you see me in public, you look away." I turned and left her weeping in her doorway. The sister I loved was a ghost. This woman was a stranger. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal, thanks to the overwhelming evidence of adultery. My lawyer was a shark. Daniel, terrified of the evidence going public and ruining his reputation at the architectural firm, agreed to nearly all my terms. He walked away with his personal belongings and his car. The house, the savings, the investments, most of which my money had seeded, remained mine. I sold the house. The memories in every room were poisoned. I bought a sleek condo with a skyline view, a place with no history, no space for ghosts. The fallout was a quiet shock through our social circle. People chose sides. Most chose mine. The sordidness of the affair, the Tuesday night deception, the sister, the parental house, was too grotesque to defend. A year later, I was in a new city, building a new life. My work thrived. I dated cautiously. A man named Leo who was transparent to a fault, who found my boundaries reassuring, not challenging. I heard through the grapevine that Daniel and Chloe didn't last. The guilt and shame, once exposed to the light, corroded whatever fantasy they had. He moved to another state, she drifted. Frank and Gloria sold the Maple Crest house. the site of the crime too heavy with memory. One rainy Tuesday evening, a year and a half after that night, I was cooking. Not a pot pie, but a new recipe. Leo was coming over. As I stirred the sauce, I realized something. The deep, aching pain was gone. The betrayal was a fact, not a feeling. It had become a part of my history, but it no longer defined my present. I had gone to that house to deliver a meal, to surprise my husband with love. Instead, I delivered myself the truth, the most devastating gift I could have received. I thought showing up unannounced would be a gesture of love. It turned out to be an act of salvation. I didn't just discover an affair that night. I discovered my own strength. I learned that the most powerful response to a world-shattering lie is not a scream, but a silent, steady walk away, leaving the ruins of their deceit behind you and carrying the unshakable truth of your own worth forward into a brighter, quieter, honest dawn.